podcast with me, Lily, and Josh.
Hello, everyone.
So we are back again. There's been a couple of things happening in the cricket world, but not too much going on. We do have another interview this week. So we spoke to Perth scorcher and Western Australian fast bowler Taneale Peschel. I really enjoyed talking to Taneale. A lot of people talk about how quiet she is, but she was brilliant. She opened up to us and she told us some funny stories and some stories about how she had to overcome injury as well. So it was really good to talk to Taneale, wasn't it?
Oh, she was awesome. We had an absolute blast. So with how we record, we do have a little bit of a time limit, and we actually went over it. So that's how much fun we were having. We just lost track of time, and it was fantastic to talk to her, and she dove into a bit of injury stuff, and she was really awesome to talk to.
She was, and it was, like you said, we were talking, and then all of a sudden our conversation just got cut off because the Zoom just ended. So we were just like, oh, and we were probably all ended up just sitting there, just going, oh, that's a shame, but
yeah, we probably could have talked for another hour.
Yeah, it was quite a long one, so I've had to trim it down to under an hour, which was tough to cut some bits out, but you got to do what you got to do. But it was a really good chat to Taneale, so we'll just jump straight into it. So enjoy our interview with Taneale Peschel.
Oh, and there's a wicket. There's a great way to pull it back. Well, that is a memorable moment. Taneale Peschel, she's knocked over the stumps of the informed player of the WNCL. Villani has been bowled.
Welcome, and thank you very much for jumping on and joining us today. Could you just tell us a little bit about where you are at the moment, kind of with your cricket? I guess it's coming up to the start of pre-season, so and where you're at, who you're playing with, and what's been happening with cricket recently.
So cricket recently for me, obviously we've just started pre-season. We officially started pre-season today. We had like a pre-season over the last couple of weeks, but due to COVID, I got to do the fitness testing, and then that was it pretty much. I was in isolation for the last week, so I haven't been able to really contribute around the girls and stuff. But other than that, we pretty much, it's when I can get back into cricket. We pretty much start straight away, so it's not so much skills at the moment. It's more condition basic and getting stronger, ready for the season.
So there's a period of like just getting the real kind of basics back together, and then you start actually, when it gets close to the time, you actually start preparing for games and that. But beforehand, it's just kind of getting back into the swing of playing sport again. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I guess when you have an off season, you obviously still stay in your peak condition, and you're still required to do that. But I guess you complete. Some people don't do any skills at all, so they actually have that complete time off where they really, I guess, take that time away from cricket so they can refresh and restart when they're ready to come back. So they're just making sure that we're in the condition to do so, and that we're strong enough to sustain the loads that we need to load. So yeah,
I guess it's very different for everyone. Some people just like don't do anything, no skills, no fitness, and then they're fine. They're good to go, which is kind of insane sometimes.
Yeah, that's the good life, I guess, if you can do that. If you're able to not do any conditioning and somehow come back in condition to do what you need to do, you're doing pretty well. You got some good genes.
I wish I could do that. I can't do that.
Yeah, I wish I could do that too.
What did you get up to in the off season? Were you traveling? Did you just have some resting? Did you carry on playing cricket? What did you get up to?
Like pretty much for me, this is kind of the first time I've ever actually got a complete off season away from the WACA. So I've got some sort of injury, and I'm still in and around the WACA and rehabbing with the physios. But actually, I didn't step foot in the WACA at all during the 6 weeks, and I spent the first couple of weeks just working. I also work at Rebel Sports, so just working there for the first couple of weeks. And then I went on a family holiday to Port Douglas in Cairns, which was really good because we haven't really been on a family holiday before, so that was really nice to spend some time with my family. And then I actually 3 weeks prior to COVID, I went down south and opened up I was part of a blitz team and opened up a new Rebel Sport in our regional Bunbury. So it's the first regional Rebel Sport I think it's actually in Australia, to be honest. So I probably worked a little bit too many hours, but I burnt myself out. So when I came back, I was bound to catch some sort of illness. But yeah, it was good. That's pretty much my whole off season. So yeah.
Well, you said obviously you work at Rebel Sport. So when it comes around to cricket season again, how much time are you spending kind of working and then playing, and how do you balance between the two?
Rebel Sport, fortunately, is really accommodating for cricket. We also have some AFLW players as well. So they're really accommodating for the shifts that we need to work in and around, obviously, our sports as athletes. And I guess for me, I've had to cut back working at Rebel because stacking that on top of cricket, it just becomes, I'm working 5 days a week and all day. So I would go to training in the morning and finish at like 12 o'clock, and then I'd be at Rebel Sport from 1 till 6 o'clock, or I would work from 7 till 3 and I'd be at cricket from 4 o'clock till 7:30 at night. So I was working too many hours, but now I've cut that down. We've got a bit of a different schedule this year for WA, so we'll probably cut that back even more as we obviously make that transition into completely full time. Like I can lower the hours and then obviously rise the hours with cricket. So it's really good that Rebel Sport's accommodating.
That is really good. And as you said, times are changing. Are you excited for the extra games, I guess, this season?
Yeah, I think the extra games will only bring extra opportunity for a lot of the girls that may necessarily not have played before, or that have never obviously been in and around the program and how it's run. So yeah, I think 12 games will be great.
More cricket, the better.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, can you take us right back to the very beginning and just tell us a bit about how you very first started playing cricket?
Yeah, I can. If I think back, I guess for me, when I was little, if I go right back to pre-cricket, I started off as a gymnast, and that was from a very young age. And then I kind of moved into, I guess when you're young, you want to try all the sports. So I moved into netball, basketball, tennis, and then my mum and stepdad used to play indoor cricket. So I pretty much would spend most of the nights down at the indoor cricket centre in my pajamas, running up and down the nets. And our family friend actually owned the indoor centre. So we actually spent like most of my childhood in the indoor cricket centre. So, and then pretty much back then you had to be 14 to play at like a Super League level, which was like the competition for centres against each other in your state. And from then you can obviously get selected for your state, and then from state you can get selected for Australia. So I started playing with my mum and all of her friends in the Super League team, and pretty much from there I got selected to play state indoor cricket, and then from then I obviously made that next step and played internationally as well for Australia, and in a few World Cups and a couple of tri-series. And from there, pretty much outdoor cricket kind of transitioned when I moved from primary school to high school, as my high school was a cricket program. There was a cricket program in the high school, so I was a part of that program as the only girl with all the boys. And from there, I can't remember how I got exposed to the WACA kind of outdoor part, but I was in the underage programming for quite a few years. And then in 2012-13, I made that next step up into it was called the Fury back then, and played a year. And I guess I was probably a little young for the commitment that it kind of wanted from me as a player. And I guess I kind of was like, well, and I didn't completely 100% enjoy myself at the time either. Obviously, playing cricket for your state is a great achievement, but I think when you don't enjoy it, I guess you can look past it. So I did one season and kind of walked away from that for a couple of years and tried to find what path I wanted to take, I guess, my life and where I wanted to go. So, and then, pretty much 2 years passed on, and there was a new coach, Lisa Kitely and Michael Dighton as the assistants, and they kind of used to come down to, I always played club cricket, so they kind of came down to our club cricket and said, look, we'd like to give you an opportunity back in the state team, and pretty much it kind of has gone from there, and I've just gone through that.
Did indoor help your game at all in the outdoor scene?
Yes, it did. Yeah, I think like the reaction times in your fielding and stuff like that, you've got to be really, I guess, like fast moving, and I guess your reaction time is a lot less from a fielding sense, and from a bowling sense, probably because as a fast bowler from indoor cricket, it wasn't really taught. You've got to kind of come straight, where I used to try and come from a round angle, which is actually completely side angled my bowling, like my I guess my bowling at the crease. So that kind of, I've been working on that for ages to try and get to straighten that my body out, all my side flexion up, because it obviously flows your side out. But other than that, I think it's a great sport to adapt to your cricket.
You mentioned that you played for Australia. What was that kind of experience like, representing your country in the indoor world?
It's very different in the indoor world to the outdoor world. I guess the whole commitment side of things, and it's obviously made improvements over the years as well. But I guess to put the yellow and green on in any occasion is obviously a great achievement and something that I'm really proud of. But I guess for me, I don't know what it's like in the outdoor cricket scene and being a part of Australia, but for the indoor scene, when you're part of Australia, you're part of a family, and I guess not just from the Australian side either, it's from the whole state side. So it's if I can sum it up, it's pretty much a really competitive tournament against your best mates, and on the field you're obviously that really competitive, but off the field it's like you literally, you're having going to dinner with your friends, and obviously the competitive side of it is there, but it's just like one big family catch up really out of state. So yeah,
I feel like you're quite a big ambassador in the outdoor cricket world for indoor cricket, so it's really good to see that you're keeping up with it and convincing other players like Piper, who we talked to a couple of weeks ago. She said that you roped her into indoor cricket in the first place. So
yeah, I roped a few of them. Heather used to play as well, actually.
There you go.
And Megan Banting, actually, when she was a lot younger. So
okay, yeah. Now, you also mentioned a bit before about how Lisa Kitely convinced you back into coming to play cricket, and you said you stepped away from it. So what was the reasoning behind that, and then how did you feel when you were asked to go back?
So obviously the reasoning behind stepping away was, like I said, I was young, and I had moved out of home at an earlier age than probably most people do. So I was kind of, I guess, taking on a commitment like that was for me, just if I didn't enjoy something, then why would I go through that pathway? So it was the complete that I wasn't enjoying cricket, and one, I didn't really know where cricket could go, pretty much, because back, we're talking, what is it, nearly 10 years. Holy crap. We're talking 10 years, so like back then I had no idea where cricket would be, and whether it would be here like what we're doing now. So back then the money in it was, and it's not completely money either, but for the commitment and what they wanted of me, as an 18, 19-year-old, and one, being unhappy and not knowing what I wanted to do, pretty much was the reason that I was like, right, I'm gonna step away and still play cricket to make sure that I still actually really enjoyed it, but also to then find my feet. And then when Lisa came and Michael came, it was more of that. I was really hesitant to actually go back, and they were really open about, just come give it a go, and the environment may have changed, so it was just more of test the waters before you commit type thing, which was actually really good. And that's how I kind of stepped back in pretty much.
I read that you had an injury at the start of the 2020 season. So what happened and what was the process on getting back to playing again?
So if I go back to the year that we won the WNCL, I can't remember what part of the season where it happened, but I actually think it was quite towards the end when we were playing ACT. I'd had a really bad left ankle, and I had an impingement in the back of my ankle. So it was every time I'd obviously put force through my front foot when I was bowling, an impingement would just give me like severe pain, and it was actually quite hard to get through. So we kind of strapped it so that it didn't go at a 45 degree. It kind of tried to stay in like a 90 degree or restrict that from actually extending. But my body being different, it does not like strapping tape at all. So it doesn't like to be restricted. And from the pressure of it not liking the strapping tape, it put a lot of, and maybe because it was in an awkward position, it put a lot of pressure through my plantar fascia, which is like the muscle that runs your arch pretty much. And I got a tear in my plantar fascia. So it wasn't a complete tear, but it was like a little tear close to is it your calcaneus at the back somewhere of your foot, the big bone right at the bottom?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then pretty much we played New South. So it was okay once it warmed up, but I think it would last maybe 30 overs in the field, and then it was like I was like holding my breath to run from side to side or running into bowl. And then we won and we played the final. And I actually got selected for. I got hit in the head, so I missed out on the Governor General's, and there was like a game against India, I think it was. So I missed out on those games due to concussion protocols. And then I played it was a tri-series, and we ended up playing England at Junction Oval. So I was actually playing with a torn plantar fascia during that as well. And then obviously had to carry that into the final as well. And then from there, we obviously went into an off season, but I didn't go into off season. I went into a moon boot for 10 weeks. And then tried to transition out of the moon boot, and we got another scan to check it, and it came back that it was the same, if not worse. So I'd been in the moon boot for 10 weeks, and it didn't really do anything. So we took a different course of action in a PRP injection, which is where they take your blood and kind of split your cells from red to white, and then they'll inject the white into the area that's sore, obviously, to re-recognize your brain that part is actually sore and it needs to be fixed. So then I was back in a moon boot for another 3 weeks. And then from then we kind of transition out, and that's where I obviously got back into the next season. But from having that injury and obviously limping a lot, my hamstrings and my hammy tendons weren't moving in the right way. So I was probably putting more load through them or not enough load through them. So they kind of weakened. And then I got little tiny, if you think of like a rope in your tendon in your hamstrings that connects to your pelvis, it's like a rope. So instead of completely tearing it like Elise and Maitland Brown actually did, I got little tiny fiber tears. So they would like obviously pull away, but then tangle themselves up, which would then obviously cause pain in that area. And I couldn't sit down, I couldn't run properly, and I pretty much carried that through the whole of next season because I didn't have enough time, obviously, to come from a foot injury, come out of the foot injury into season, and then obviously gain this hammy tendinopathy is what they call it, carry that into the next season. So it was like a load management, which obviously we then into the Big Bash hub. So I was pretty much only able to bowl in a game, and I wasn't able to bowl or do any kind of sort of extras outside of games just because I hadn't built the load for that. and I was gonna hit high load anyway playing the game. So I wasn't supposed to play or be able to play all those games, but I somehow got through and paid the price of it. Obviously, when I came out of it, but and then so that came out of the hub pretty much, and into the back end of WNCL season, which I managed to get through, and into another off season, which I spent the whole off season with our physio back then, who was Brent. We've spent the whole time, pretty much the whole 6 to 8 weeks, on retraining my running technique, because it's not the prettiest going around. So we kind of needed to change that, and so I can run in some sort of normal person running technique. And it's still a work in progress, but that obviously then leads into the season that we just had. So pre Big Bash, I completely changed. Like, I literally had to change my whole run up, because when I changed my running technique, it just didn't fit in the area that I actually had, that I had, for the last 5 to 10 years. So that was probably something that I did sit back and reflect on at the end of the season last year. And I don't honestly, I have no idea how I got through it, because last season it mentally, physically and emotionally really drained me. And I think, like, you can walk around with a smile on your face, but I actually really just wanted to go home and, like, be in the comfort of my home. So to get through that now and look back and, I know you said earlier, sorry, not earlier, but before, Lily, about, taking that last over in the Big Bash final. I honestly had no confidence in my actual game. I'd lost all that. So to be able to throw in the ball and somehow finish off the game and, help my team and contribute to my team actually lifting a trophy, I guess I've probably never spoken about it, but I probably should be pretty proud of myself. Because at the start of Big Bash, like I said, I was in Launceston, and I had to have some really tough conversations with our coach and our captain, Soph, and I'm thankful that they're so supportive and actually, kept me going and going, no, you can actually get through this. But yeah, I spent hours back in Perth when I got home, and I had a net to myself, and I reckon I spent about an hour and a half not figuring out, but I was like, right, I need to get something that's going to get me through the rest of the Big Bash, so I can then reassess in between Big Bash and WNCL. And I managed to do that. Well, I got kicked out of the nets because the groundskeepers were like, right, it's dark time now. And I was half waiting for Shelley to see me because they stay in hotels that are across the road, and I was half telling her, waiting for a text message from Shelley saying, that's enough, Pesh, like, go home. But yeah, I found something that kind of got me through the back end of Big Bash. And yeah, there was still, like, quite a few hiccups, but I think I found more confidence in myself and in my game as I kind of went through, not in my game, but in my skill. Like, retraining your run up is like trying to teach my niece how to ride a bike. Like, it is actually, like, when you cement something and you know it, like, yeah, and to completely lose that, it was an experience that, I would never want someone else to have to go through, but I know I'm not going to be the only one, and I guess I'm probably better off for it. And if someone else has that, I'm always open to speak to them and be like it's okay to feel all these things, and probably use the resources that you have available as well, because I didn't do that. I really went internal and, like, closed off to everything. And and then pretty much, WNCL hit, and obviously I'd worked on it a fair bit more, and there's still so much more to work on to make it smooth and repeatable. But it got through the season, and we've been working on it now. So yeah. Sorry, that was a long story.
No, thank you. No, that is fantastic.
I'm going to tell you, I have to pull it all the way back.
That is terrific insight. Like what you said about, you had no confidence and you were just, like, so drained when you got thrown the ball in the final over, and you don't see that people watching they don't see the backstory of like what someone's going through. And thank you for sharing that. I'm glad you got through it, and you're doing very well.
Well, yeah, I was in the last over, and I just remember because I'm like, Marizone had like bowled so well throughout the whole game as well, and then that last over that I think it was maybe the 16th or 17th over, and I think they had maybe hit her for about 15 or 16, and I was like, God, if she gets hit for 15 or 16, like I could go for 30. So I was like, so far I was like, are you sure, like type thing? And then she pretty much was like, yep. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And then I think we got so honed into the bowling plan of what we had towards obviously the batters, and I was just so focused on that like we obviously went with a wide plan to take the ball away from Maddie Penner's arc because she is so powerful as a batter. So and we obviously just clogged up that side of the field, and pretty much the risk that you run of bowling a wide plan is that it goes wide because you've got a small margin. If you're too close on the inside, like you're straight into their arc and you're going to get the ball from over Cow Corner's fence. So I think, they leaked a few wides, but I think that the last 3 balls, I remember Chloe coming up to me and she was like, Pesh, just get it on the stumps. And then I didn't register that, like, you probably can't hit 18 off 3 balls. So like I was like, oh yeah, sorry.
That game was probably the craziest games of cricket, probably the craziest last over of cricket I've ever seen. And you did bowl a couple of wides. How did you kind of bring it back in, and what did you want to bowl, and what were you trying to execute in order to pick that over back together? Because it was an 8-ball over, and what were your thoughts there?
Yeah, so like I said before, like our bowling plan for Maddie Penner was to keep it out of her arc and to bowl the wide plan, which is outside off stump, which is the wide line. So if you could, and it was pretty much wide Yorkers. So because if you obviously missed your length as well, she can get power to go straight. So I had to bowl wide Yorkers, which when you don't have confidence in your game is actually very hard to do. But I was like, right, I'm doing it. And so, yeah, the plan was to obviously bowl wide Yorkers to Maddie Penner so she could just hit the offside. And then if we plugged the offside, like if she got it over the fence, like that's a great shot. And if she got it through the field, then, like all credit to her. But yeah, then the risk that you run when you bowl a wide plan, whether that be Yorkers or an actual normal length, is that the wide line is right there. You've got no room for error pretty much. So you got room for error on the inside, but like I said before, you'll end up sent straight over your head or straight out to Cow. So it had to be there. And then obviously the risk you run is that it does go wide. So the first one was obviously I was like, right, okay, just get back to your mark, take a few breaths. I can't remember what Soph said to me either, because she was at mid off, but we had a little bit of a laugh. And I wish I knew I remembered what she said, but it was funny. And then it was just like, for me to get through something like that and to refocus, I always like to make a joke of something. And it's not me, taking the piss or anything. It's just me being myself. And if I'm not laughing or smiling, then I'm obviously like not enjoying myself. So it was, I was make a joke of it. And then it was like, right, as soon as I was ready to run into bowl, I was focused on what I was trying to do. And then, the third last ball, I'm pretty sure they couldn't win, unless I got hit for 3 sixes. And the third ball, obviously went wide, and I was like, oh crap. So I was like, right, focus. And that's when Chloe had come over as well to me, and she's like, can you just put it on the stumps? And I was like, well, I'm trying to bowl this plan. And then it kind of clicked in my head. It was like, oh, actually, no, I just need to bowl on the stumps because I can't win. So it was just, little things that obviously reiterate in your brain of what you're doing. But pretty much just once I'm ready to, like, at the top of my mark, ready to come in a bowl, I'm focused and I know what I'm trying to do. And you can have jokes on the outside, but as soon as you turn around and you're facing the batter, like I'm on for what my job is to do. So
I mean, in the end, it completely worked in your favour, and it was the best result for the night because it was such a good home crowd. it was obviously a record-breaking WBBL crowd. What was the atmosphere like playing in front of that huge crowd?
I guess, like, obviously that's the biggest crowd that I've ever obviously played in front of. And I think at the time, I remember when we had went there, maybe 2 days prior, I remember walking out onto the oval with Alana and Heather. And we were kind of like, a bit like, you know, you get excited and a little bit jumpy of like, wow, like what happens if we can feel like, because we were getting messages about that, you know, it could be 20, it could be 25,000 people, which is like the whole bottom kind of thing. And I've watched the football there, and I've watched a soccer game there as well. And to be there in that atmosphere of, you know, that thing potentially filling up, I guess for us, it's over 15,000 people. It was kind of like you walk out there to warm up, and it was a little bit like a pinch your arm kind of moment type thing. It was like, well, this is actually really cool. And one, because it was the only really sport that people could have watched at that time as well, with COVID obviously hitting as well. So I think we had more support as we lost the boys. Obviously they got stuck over East. So I guess our Scorchers fans really came for that night. And I guess when you did something really well, when we did something really well, you knew about it. And I don't know what's from the other end, but I think it just was really quiet when the Strikers did something really well. So it was kind of like, yeah, it was really weird. I think like if you were from, you know, obviously from the Strikers, it may have been like a bit like, oh, this is eerie type thing. But from our perspective, like, I loved it. It was great. I think whether we won or lost, I think we still would have engaged with our fans as well. As Scorchers, we love our fans. And I don't think I've taken that many selfies before on that many people's phones. I think it took maybe like over an hour, because I actually got a SATA tested afterwards, and the poor woman was waiting for me at the race into our change rooms, and I was the last one to come in. Pretty much I'd palmed off my spikes to some young kid because I'd been asked 4 times for them, and that he was the last one. I was like, right, just have him. So some kids got my spikes, and I remember rocking up to training and I was like, oh, I actually don't have any spikes. I gave them away. So I had to go and buy a new pair. But I think playing in front of that many fans was great. And an experience that I'll always cherish.
But I'm sure there's some young kid who has proudly got your shoes displayed somewhere.
I actually think he commented on a photo or tagged me in something on Instagram and said, I got your shoes or something like that. And I was like, enjoy them, mate.
So still talking about the WBBL, I guess, you weren't in it from like the very beginning, like a lot of players were. So coming into a tournament that had already been started, it'd been happening with men's, and it already started up and running with the women. I guess you kind of knew what to expect from seeing it beforehand. So what was it like then jumping in with the Scorchers?
I can't remember what year I actually came into it. I think it might have been WBBL 03 or 04, when Catherine Brunt had hurt her back. So I was in and around as a replacement player for her. And I guess, as you said, sitting on the sidelines and get a feel of what it's like, that was a great experience. But it is nothing like when you step foot on that field. I guess it was just a whole nother level pretty much. And it was actually really, like, I don't get nervous, but like I guess I get nervous, but I try and use them in a different way. Everyone uses their nerves in a different way. And I was crapping myself when I took that field, and when you get given the ball to go, you're like, whoa, like type thing. And if you get taken away, you're like, oh no, like where's this gonna go type thing. But I guess from being and then obviously I got contracted, so then I was having more opportunity and trying to cement myself in some sort of way to hold that opportunity. But sitting on the sideline is a great experience. But it is absolutely nothing like stepping foot on that field and actually playing. It's a massive jump.
I guess it's like, it's still big. You're still part of the team, and you're around everyone. You just soak it all in, and then when it comes that moment, you're like, awesome, this is it.
Yeah, pretty much. You do. You sit back and you soak in everything, the players that you're around. Like, I was Meg Lanning was in the squad back then. You had Nat Siver, Catherine Brunt. To play with people of that caliber, or even just to be around people and see how they go about things. Like, I was only just, starting back into cricket in that high elite level. So I was kind of like, whoa, this is actually really cool. And yeah, you sit there and you soak everything in, but then when you step out in that field, you're ready to go. But yeah, it's another jump to actually be like, nah, I actually am good enough to be here type thing. Because I guess you can kind of believe that you're not, but then you believe that you are, if that makes sense. Because I guess the little back and forth playing type thing. But yeah, once you're on that field, it's go time.
Yeah, for sure.
You mentioned Nat Siver and Catherine Brunt as well. Did they teach you anything or anything like that? Did you have any training sessions or anything that you just kind of picked up from even just watching them or anything like that?
I actually just remember when I wasn't playing, or I wasn't obviously in cement in the squad as a replacement player. I remember everyone kind of going, I was running drinks, so I remember everyone kind of like, oh, just give Catherine her drink, but then like kind of walk away type thing. And I was kind of like, why? Like, she's type thing. And then I soon realized exactly why you should just give Catherine her drink, and don't engage in conversation, because she just needs to get all those steam out. But I guess I learned the better way, and I was just like, right, I'm going to see what her actual response is. And yeah, when I got it, I was like, oh, okay, I understand your guys, why you said that now. But they are the two of the loveliest people I've ever met. And I learned a lot from Catherine and about how she went about her trainings, and same as Nat as well. They're two, obviously England's greatest cricketers, and Catherine has a world of experience. So to be able to pick their brains was a really good opportunity as well. And I can't really say what I kind of got out of it, but I guess at the time it was just more of just soaking in everything and being around people of that caliber.
Yeah, brilliant players. So do you ever feel any pressure having to bowl the final overs of games sometimes?
I guess there's always, I guess you always feel pressure at any moment of the game. And I guess at the back end, whether you're trying to protect or like set a score, obviously, or keep them to the low score for you to then chase. I guess the pressure is always there. And you're trying to, go for the lowest runs. And the hard thing is they're coming twice as hard as you're trying to bowl, if that makes sense. So it's just making sure that you're really clear on what your plans are, and really clear of like, all right, what's this batter doing and what's this batter's strength, so I can take that away from them. Or if we're going to go with that, then I need to make sure that my fielders are in that exact position. So you've got to, at the death overs, you've really got to be really clear on what your plan is and where you want to get hit, and where you want the batters, where you don't want to, where you want to take away from them. You want to take their strengths away. So, I would definitely say there's always pressure. And I don't think no one would say that they don't feel any pressure. If you don't, then let's have a conversation. But it's one thing is, you have to be so clear on your plans. Cricket's like, it's a really tactical game. You got to do your study, and I don't do it very often.
Homework.
Yeah, you do. You got to do your homework. We've got lots of footage, so we're able to do that. But if you don't do it, you can get caught out pretty quickly. And same as a bowler, like the batters would do study on us as well. So they would click onto, what plans we have, and what we go to, you know, if we're getting hit or if they can't get us away, then they will change. Like I'm trying to change their game and they're trying to change my game throughout the whole thing. And that's what T20 cricket's all about, is trying to obviously maneuver into your strength, and then obviously I've then got to adapt type thing, or then they've got to adapt as a batter. So
Yeah.
But you've obviously won the last WBBL season. So what are your plans going into the next season? And for WNCL, what are your plans?
We have a few new faces around. So I guess we're just trying to rebuild our program, I guess. And we're just, we're asking of us as players is to be really clear where we want to take our cricket. And Becky is she's a coach that she's there for your journey, not there to push you in that journey, if that makes sense. So me, as obviously a cricketer in WA, is where do I want to take my cricket and how far do I want to go, and the commitment that I'm in. And then when I use their help to guide me, if that makes sense. So they're there to obviously coach us, but they're not there to go, I want you to do this and I want you to do that and I think you need to do this. It's like, hey Pesh, where do you want to take your cricket and what's the next steps, and how can we help you become the best cricketer that you can possibly be, and, you know, reach your goals type thing. So for us, we're just really trying to build I guess our younger girls like that as well. Is we do have quite a young squad, and a lot of them did make debuts, and we've got a few fresh faces around. So it's kind of welcoming them into our program and showing them the ways of how we want to obviously take WA cricket for the women in WA. Is if we look back on last season, as a WA cricket as a whole, male and female, were actually quite successful. And the boys had won 3 out of 3, and we had won 1 out of 2. So I think the programming outside of obviously we've got that much support from WA cricket, from Christina Matthews as a CEO all the way down. So it's just really finding where we want to take our cricket and making sure that we're working hard to do that. If that makes kind of sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Now, do you have a favourite cricket memory, whether it be a game, wicket, anything like that will always stick with you?
I think winning the WNCL, that was just a whole different experience, I guess. To be involved in, was it 33 years, I think was the last time that we'd won it as WA cricket for the women. And I think, you know, being a part of something, you kind of, that belief is always there that you can win the silverware. But I guess the seasons before, there was so many up and downs. And then, I I just remember standing out there on the field, and I think, Pipe was bowling the last over, actually. I think we actually knew we kind of cemented it a few overs, and it was just kind of like, I remember looking at Emma King, who's obviously retired, and we were kind of like, is this happening? Like, are we going to win this type thing? And it was kind of like, it ended in the perfect way. I think Piper had bowled, I can't remember who the player was, had bowled her out, and that's when we could all celebrate, which was obviously a really good way. And then, just being around the girls, and I guess it was really nice, you know, that Nicole Bolton had obviously played for numerous years, and for her to be a part of, you know, her lifting a trophy, as well as Emma King that had put in so much work as well. And then just to come back home and be a part of all the past players as well, and having their support, even a part of the Wacker and their support, it was a pretty memorable moment. So,
and Tasmania as well this year with the WNCL winning the first time, you'll never forget your first win. So no, it's a great memory.
Now, do you have a favourite teammate as well that you've ever played with in any format team?
I've got to say Piper, don't I? No.
I was going to say, she said you, so.
No, me and Pipes have, I love playing with Piper. She's one of my best mates. We literally lived down the road from each other. We managed to build in the same area, and I could probably throw a rock at her house from my house. And just, she's just one of those people that, if you ever, like she said, if you're ever down in the dumps, like we can kind of read each other and we know how we're going, and we literally like go and pick out each other's brains. We would have a Wednesday night. I can't remember what the TV show was, but on a Wednesday night, we'd go to her house and we'd talk cricket and watch TV series and then come back. Like it was kind of like more of a debrief type thing. And I guess when you're able to have that outside of cricket as well, it's really nice to kind of debrief. But I've known Piper and her family for years. Whether we're fishing out in Savannah's, either feeding the fish with our insides or actually catching the fish and eating them, we had everything was happening. So Pipes is, I think Piper, she's probably one of my favorite cricketers. If you could say that. That's kind of corny, but whatever.
Who's a bit of a pest?
I'm probably the pest, to be honest. I like to stir the pot a bit. I like to test people's waters because I can kind of read when, like, you know, the team's a little bit down, and I'll just play jokes on everybody. So I'm probably the pest. But if someone that like annoys me, I'm probably annoying with everyone. Like if I'm in the gym, I'm taking the piss of people, or if I'm out in the field, I'm like, you've got a full dive to catch that, or you can't go into the gym like until you've taken it. So like I'm challenging them, but I'm also annoying the crap out of them. So
that's good. Everyone needs.
Yeah, I'm the joke. I'm classed as a jokester, I reckon.
Yeah. Well, every team's got to have one, so it just happens that we're talking to you. So there you go. Do you like play pranks or anything like that? Has that ever been something that you've done?
I could tell you a story, but it's from indoor cricket, and it was pretty bad. So WA kind of really struggled to get an open women's team, because obviously indoor cricket is like you get selected, but you've got to fund those funds to go and play in the actual tournament. And I guess when you're asking your parents to fork out $2,000 to $4,000 over a juniors and an opens tournament, it's actually quite a lot of money. So it got to a point where we couldn't get a WA side together, but we could get, 4 or 5 of us, and then we'd pull from other states. And we'd made this team this one year. I think Pipes actually played in as well. And we had this girl from New South Wales. Her name was April, and she I can't remember where it was, but actually it was in Queensland. We played in Strathpine, and she didn't like, you get those white geckos.
Oh no. Yeah.
So she was like, I don't like lizards, blah blah blah. But anyway, so I'd caught this white gecko. And I had taken it to cricket. So I caught this white gecko and I'd put it in one of her batting gloves, and like obviously then put it in, and she put it in her bag, and then we had a game. And I remember I think she was the second batting pair. So the first batting pair had batted. We were playing Victoria, and I'm really good friends with Nick Martin and Bryony Polkinghorn and stuff like that, who are like the greats of indoor cricket. And they knew that I was a shit stirrer, because that's just what I was like around the Aussie team as well. And she went to put her glove on. So she put one glove on and went to put the other glove on. And indoor cricket, if you don't get out on the field in time, like you can get timed out, like you lose 5 runs. So she had gone to put another glove on. And the gecko was obviously in her glove, and she screamed and threw it off. And me being me, I was on the sideline, so I'd lost it laughing, and everyone's like, what's going on type of thing. And then obviously you see this little lizard run out the roller door.
Oh, it lived.
And then we continue to play, and
In a game.
So that's probably the funniest thing I've done.
If anyone knows an indoor centre, the scream would have like echoed through.
Yeah. It was pretty funny. And then everyone's like, what was that? And I couldn't speak, because it was like I was laughing that much, like when you start crying. And then everyone was just laughing at me laughing, so it was just, we're losing the plot. But yeah,
Did
And
she,
this was a mid-state, like this was a mid-tournament game as well. So,
did she ever forgive you after that, or was she?
yeah, she did. She think it was funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
She was like, "Don't ever do that again." I'm like, "Okay."
No, that's a good one. I'm glad you told us that story there. Yeah. To finish off our interview, we like to just do some quick fire this or that questions. So, T20 or Test cricket?
T20,
Orange juice or apple juice?
orange,
Good choice. Good choice. Beach or backyard cricket?
backyard cricket.
Yeah.
It was front yard at home, but yeah,
Same
thing.
Same thing. Comedy or horror?
Comedy.
No,
You will literally never see me watch a horror movie. I can't stand them.
I think we need to change this question because no one.
Yeah, horror's getting over.
We need to change it
Yeah,
up.
it's like this new Stranger Things on Netflix.
Yeah.
People are like, "Oh, have you watched it?" Absolutely not. I've seen the preview to that. I will not sleep.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, like the funny, scary movies that's supposed to be funny.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't like them. They're not funny. They're scary. It's not happening. I can see it. I know what's happening, but I'm still like,
Dogs or cats?
Oh no, that's a tough question because I honestly, I wouldn't have either.
You're a neither.
I'm scared. I'm scared of dogs, and cats leave hair everywhere.
Yeah.
So
Very true. Yeah. Now, would you rather hit 3 sixes to win a game or take a hat trick to win a game?
oh, that's a good one. As a bowler, you should say a hat trick, right? Actually, I think a hat trick. I think it would be more. But if I hit 3 sixes as a bowler, but as a batter, like
That's the
it's a win-win.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the answer is.
Like as a bowler, if I'm hitting 3 sixes, like you're on top of the world. You're hitting like Channel 7 news lines.
Getting promoted to an all-rounder after that.
Yeah, you get the straight promotion. Number 11, you're promoted to number 2. Off you go.
Now, pineapple on a pizza, yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go-to pizza topping, what's yours?
Well, as I've gone away from red meat, I've literally now I either eat like actually a barbecue chicken. That is my favorite.
Now, chocolate in the fridge or in the pantry?
Oh, that's a hard one. It lives in the fridge in my house, but only because my sister really likes it in the fridge.
Yeah. So you would keep it in the cupboard then?
Yeah, I'm keeping it in the cupboard. You buy it in a cupboard. You don't buy it in the fridge section in Coles or Woolies.
That's a good point.
My sister even chucks it in the freezer. I'm like, what are you eating? Chocolate or like frozen
a bit far.
blocks of brown stuff?
I'll put it in the fridge, but freezer's maybe a little bit too frozen.
Yeah.
Lily, I've got one more. So, being WA,
Yeah.
Fremantle or West Coast?
Fremantle. I've never really supported
Fremantle.
football, to be honest. I actually don't have a team, and we tried to figure this out. They're like, you've got to go for an AFL team, and I was like, oh, I don't know. But yeah, being Perth, I'll go Freo over Eagles because Eagles were winning at the time, so I was like, I've got to go to the underdogs.
Yeah.
And now Freo on top, so
Flag
It's a win.
mantle.
yeah. Wouldn't speak too soon, but yep.
I know.
Well, that's all the questions we have. It's been really, really great to talk to you. So thank you very much for jumping on and chatting to us. I really, really appreciate it.
No, that's fair. Thank you for having me, guys, and giving me the opportunity.
Oh, and there's a wicket. There's a great way to pull it back. Well, that is a memorable moment. Taneale Peschel, she's knocked over the stumps of the informed player of the WNCL. Villani has been bowled.
So yeah, like I said, I feel like you really see her kind of progress throughout the interview, and by telling us like the stories, I think it was so much fun to talk to. I really enjoyed it, and she said it was sometimes a little bit out of her comfort zone, but I'm so glad she was able to jump on and talk to us.
Yeah, and what did they mean about she's quiet? She's brilliant. She's just still don't like talking about the final, but that was good. We'll look it's all good. But very lovely girl to talk to, and hopefully some good insights for people.
Yeah, and look, she's still very young, so she's still got quite a good future ahead of her. I know it's been great to watch her bowl over the years, especially like that final over of the final last year in the WBBL was probably one of my favourite overs to watch in cricket. Even though it didn't go the Strikers' way, it was still just such an intense over, and I just couldn't even imagine the adrenaline they all felt, and especially how Taneale felt bowling that over. It was a crazy over.
Yeah, and looking like I have watched it back a few times. Just the over, it's just great if you're a cricket fan.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely fantastic. And yeah, like you said, unfortunately, didn't fall the strikers' way, but any cricket fan would have enjoyed that over. And she gave us some great insight. She's just like how to bowl a death over in a final.
Yeah. But yeah, moving on. We have got some news, haven't we, Josh? Do you want to
Yes,
you can take over this part.
I can explain. So, unfortunately, I've made the hard decision to finish up with this podcast. But no, it's very definitely didn't come this decision lightly. Because I've had so much fun with this over the past 6 months. But now things have just gotten. I've got a new job. And I've got things to do with my cricket that I need to work towards to kind of get back into the position where I was a few years ago. So yeah, unfortunately, I have to finish up with this podcast. But I've had so much fun with this and so much fun with you, Lily, recording this every week. And it definitely was hard to say to you that I have to finish up.
Yeah, well, it's sad to see you go, but I really appreciate everything you've done for the podcast because, like I said, I wouldn't have been able to get it up and running without you.
I would say just like it's going to run fine and perfectly without me, but yeah, I feel very sad to go.
Yeah, no, look, I really appreciate it. It's definitely not the end of How's That the Cricket podcast. There's still more to come. We've still got more lined up, but it will just unfortunately not be with Josh on this end of the line. But
I'll definitely keep listening as well.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't wait to listen and see what Lily's going to do for the future.
But yeah, that's what's kind of happened over the past week. But yeah, look, it's like we said, definitely not the end, but yeah, super grateful for all you've brought to the podcast. And
thank you.
Yeah, that's a bit of a sad note to end on, isn't it? Let's cheer it up a bit.
Yes, let's cheer it up.
I did an interview with a special guest co-host purely for the interview. My dad joined me for an interview. Jamie, he's pretty good at talking. He's a teacher, so he's used to all the talking and questioning and all that kind of thing. So it was really good to get him on board just to chat to USA cricketer Marty Kane. So Marty played a couple of games for USA and is the captain of the San Diego Surf Riders in the minor league cricket USA, which is starting up next week. So very excited for that. And he also has his own coaching business, MK Cricket, over in San Diego in California. So he was born in New Zealand, but moved to San Diego. So we talked to him all about that kind of change up, what the move was like, and just the cricket set up in America, which is something that we don't hear very often. But Marty gave us a really good insight into that. So yeah, that will be next week's episode. But yeah, in the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram or Twitter at How's That TCP, or send us an email at howsthatthecricketpodcast@gmail.com. But that is all from me, and
that is 100% from me, guys. Thank you very much for listening, and keep supporting this podcast because Lily's going to do amazing.
How's that? You missed the